What drew everybody to Warmachine? Big, mean robots. Well, guess what? This is an entire faction of big, awesome robots.
Players of the Witchfire trilogy might remember that the Cult of Cyriss played a very active role in terms of that story, and so there was a harkening back to the past.
But it was a matter of having a compelling reason for this faction to become a player in the battles of Western Immoren in Warmachine. They needed to become a big enough force and have the driving force behind them, and that meant getting the timing right within the storyline.
You know, one of the really exciting things about Convergence is that it really breaks new ground in terms of the visuals and the units that we're introducing to the world, because the Convergence is so different from anything we've seen before.
These are actually human beings who are inhabiting robots, and they know what it's like to live as a robot, so that they're self-consciously forming themselves into both works of art and machines of destruction. The developers came to us with all these crazy ideas on hands that turn into drills, and pikes that turn into halberds, and flails that become maces, and so we got to do all of this really neat stuff, and I think it sort of manifested itself in my favorite way within the heavy infantry units of the game, the reciprocators. These are clockwork soldiers on medium bases. When they shield wall, the visual concept is that they actually interlock together, and we went through and we really explored these aspects of how to make these weapons feel like they worked.
One of the biggest inspirations for the Convergence of Cyriss when we were concepting it was really the Art Deco movement and trying to make these things look like the giant robots that came out of the golden age of science fiction. And so you see a lot of chrome and rounded plates, in addition to still maintaining a very mechanical look.
We looked at things like the Chrysler Building and a lot of art from the 20s and 30s with the scalloped edges and the long forms. Obviously a lot of metal, but we wanted the very high polished feel, a lot of nicely scalloped armor and bold shapes to the armor that feel both organic and mechanical at the same time.
I think one of their more compelling units is the Clockwork Angels. These are basically constructs that have these mechanical wings that fly across the battlefield and just rip through their opponents, very fast and very deadly.
The light warjack, the Galvanizer, is the first warjack to repair other warjacks in your battle group, and he ranges all the way to the heavy Cypher with his various ammunition he can fire from his servopod mortar.
The Convergence of Cyriss really embodies a new way of looking at the standard warjack and of the soul and the utilization of that in the Iron Kingdoms. You see it in their infantry with their ability to swap different weapon modes to gain different abilities on the tabletop. But I think the biggest place that it really shines and that really defines Convergence of Cyriss as a faction is in the battle group.
One of the key elements of the Convergence of Cyriss's gameplay is how they're a clockwork faction. Everything that you do has an impact on the other portions of your army. It has a lot of synergy, and it's like a giant machine. Each Convergence of Cyriss Warcaster has a different field marshal ability. They convey bonuses on their battle group that vary from making every single one of them into an arc node to giving them all shield guard. Warjacks in the Convergence are called vectors, and these machines vary a little bit from the warjacks that other factions have. Each vector has a component called an Induction Node. Once per turn, when one of your vectors spends a focus point, it can give that focus point to a nearby vector. This allows a trickle of power cascading through the battle group so that a single focus point can be used over and over again. The vectors in a Convergence of Cyriss battle group also have a very unique way that their mat and rat stats are used. Rather than having individual stats for each vector, they're based on the Warcaster. A Warcaster with a Mat 7 and a Rat 2 will convey that to his entire battle group, just as one with a Mat 5 and a Rat 5 will. This gives you almost an entirely new warjack when you play it with a new Warcaster.
Really, I think the biggest reason anyone's going to want to play Convergence of Cyriss is the fact that on the tabletop, they are extremely efficient, and they allow you to adapt to any changing battlefield situation on the fly.
Players will be able to use many warjacks in their battle groups and also be able to shift how those jacks even work from game to game by switching up their Warcaster.
They're just fun, and they offer a whole new lens in which to explore the Iron Kingdoms and a bunch of great new challenges both tactically when playing with and against them.
I think Warmachine players are going to enjoy playing the Convergence because it really brings something new mechanically to the table, and I think people are really going to be drawn to the fact that they get to play with their full-on army of these metal soldiers. To put that down on the battlefield, it feels amazing.